Good morning, friends. Matt Greer here at St. John's United Methodist Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Good morning and welcome to Monday Morning Music with Matt. It's a beautiful morning. If you're watching from Albuquerque, I rode my bike to church this morning, and it's going to be a good day because my boss brought me coffee. So I hope you are having an equally good start to your week. We're going to listen to some wonderful music this morning, and I'm so excited that I get to chat with actually the boss that brought me coffee this morning about all things musical. And I'm going to start today by playing a beautiful piece of music just for the heck of it. This is a video of the British a cappella group Apollo 5, who were here at St. John's right before the lockdown in February of 2020. And they're going to be singing a piece that was written for them by another friend of ours, Taylor Davis. This is Music When Soft Voices Die. Hope you enjoy this. That is so beautiful, such a beautiful piece, and it's still really moving to hear voices singing together in harmony. Those of you who've been around for a few years may remember that Taylor Davis wrote a piece for us for Lessons and Carols in 2016, and that there was supposed to be a concert happening in London this summer. And just a reminder that if you are interested, we are hopeful that that concert is going to happen next summer. The company that's producing it has booked the space, and we're starting to talk around here about making a trip. So knock on wood, Taylor Davis's Magnificat in London, June 8th, 2022. And choir members and really anybody in the world is welcome to join that trip. So I hope you'll consider it and look for more information coming. Generally, I do a check-in about how things are going around here technologically and with worship. And the last 2 Sundays, of course, we have been open in the sanctuary for live participation, which has been honestly wonderful and also, excuse me, surreal to have people with us in the room. And of course, the big challenge has been to continue to do the live stream such as we've been doing for the last year, and then create the space for people in live worship to be present and to worship as we've been used to for so long. And I'm tremendously proud of the work that has gone on the last couple of weeks to make that happen. We've had on the order of 75 people in the room with us both Sundays so far. No congregational singing still, because that is not deemed to be safe in inside spaces for large groups of people. And so we're keeping an eye on that. So what we've been having for music the last 2 Sundays are small ensembles. And actually, we are excited that this Sunday we're going to start including some of our chancel choir members who want to in those small ensembles. And one of the things that we have been kind of experimenting with to make singing possible are these things called singers masks, which a couple of companies kind of got on the ball starting to produce early on in the pandemic. And so the music staff has been experimenting. There are a couple of different versions, and you may even have noticed in hearing some of the singers that different of them, they're all wearing masks, but at least in the room, to me, some of them have sounded more muffled than others. That's because we've been experimenting with different models of these, and I'm not very adept at putting mine on, but I'm going to try. This mask allows for more space inside. This is called a resonance singing mask. And so the idea, hopefully, is that it allows enough space for the voice to resonate and still provide the protection from aerosols and all of that kind of stuff. And so this is the one that we think we are most interested in going with. And are looking into, getting them for the choir so that as we go forward, that it's possible to allow people to continue to sing. So that's one of the things that's going on that we're trying to figure out. And chancel choir members who may be watching, there's a schedule coming around for you to sign up and sing in small ensembles. Very, very simple things. We're going to start off with stuff that we can put together easily just on a Sunday morning. So look for information about that to come. One other thing I want to talk about that's coming up this week before I introduce my guest, and that is an exciting live stream concert that is happening this Saturday at 5 p.m. My colleague, Therese McCauley, is doing a lecture recital called Understanding Bach and Ourselves. That'll be on our YouTube channel at 5 o'clock. And Therese is next month going to be finishing up a music degree at the University of New Mexico. And so one of her culminating projects has been this lecture recital that she's doing Saturday. And the music was pre-taped, pre-recorded. We had musicians in the sanctuary on Friday night, and Teresa is singing a group of arias and then talking about them in between, and also talking about Bach and his life of faith. And I asked her this morning if she would be okay with me sharing a teaser for that concert, and she said yes. This is unedited video. As you're going to see, it's from the cameras that we've had on stage for the last year, now mounted all over the sanctuary. And so this is kind of a broad view. It's going to be mixed in with more close-ups, I expect, when you join. But this is an aria from Bach Cantata 82, which is a Lenten cantata. The text is, "Righteous God, do you judge? Then for the salvation of my soul, I will count the drops of blood from Jesus. Indeed, since no one can fathom it, it will conceal my guilt and sin." So again, a Lenten text. This is Therese and Jim Arend and Ian Brody on cello and Natalia Valladares on oboe. Hope you enjoy. such a happy aria for a Lenten text, I think. That's one of the pieces that Therese will be singing this Saturday on that lecture concert. So check it out. It will be live streamed, mostly pre-recorded, but it will premiere Saturday at 5 o'clock on our YouTube channel. So looking forward to that, and very, very proud of the work that Therese has done. So this morning, I have a very special guest. And, you know, for the last several months that I've been doing these, I've been talking to all kinds of friends, mostly who are musicians who I admire. And if this was a surprise to you that I was inviting Pam on this morning, she ticks all the boxes. She is a serious musician who had a serious career and serious training in music education, music ministry, both before she felt a call to pastoral ministry. And she is a good friend, and I'm so happy she is with us this morning. Good morning, Pam.
Hi, Matt. Salute paz.
Thanks for the coffee. That's just very, very, very kind. And I'm in my office and Pam is in her office, which is kind of ridiculous, but that's how we do these things. So how are you this morning? You didn't have to preach yesterday, so that's good.
I'm pretty good today. Yeah. And it was wonderful to hear Randall, to hear our incoming senior pastor. So
Yes.
it was a good day and really wonderful to be in worship again in that physical space. Good to see.
It has been, you and I have talked about this some, but it's been really moving to see people that you realized you haven't seen in person for a long time. And, you know, when things are operating normally, we see people mostly like once a week. And so I've been surprised, like, oh, I kind of forgot about you in some cases.
Yeah, or to figure out who it is from just this little view.
Yeah, exactly. And the first Sunday that we were back in the sanctuary, of course, the Abide service had a couple of weeks on us, but at least for me, that just seemed like a huge hurdle to get over, to figure out all of the safety protocols, to make sure that we were, you know, making the right decisions, and then to continue to do the live stream. I felt like I have needed a nap ever since April 18th, but I'm very, very proud.
I am too. I am so proud, and I am proud of what has been accomplished in the last year and how worship continued and the life of the church continued. There was a lot of work, but I'm really, really pleased and happy in all that was accomplished.
Yeah. And the timing was also right, just as far as it's spring in New Mexico and the weather is gorgeous. And so after church, people are gathering out on the east side and able to see each other and have conversations and sticking around for a good while doing just that.
That's right. And it's theologically good stuff, you know, believing the resurrection.
Yes. Yeah, exactly right. So, as I mentioned when I was introducing you, one of the reasons that I was interested in talking to you is because you have this amazing background in music that I think you've talked about some, but not a lot of people are aware. And I have to tell you that when our previous pastor, Craig Cockrell, was on his way out and it was announced that you were coming, he said to me, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but he said some version of, "You're going to love working with her. She is fantastic. She's going to be great." And then he said, "And by the way, she used to do your job. She has like 2 degrees in music and she used to be a music director." And at that point I was like, great. You know, it didn't immediately, you know, it's like she's going to have opinions about, not that I don't want the person I work with to have opinions, but my goodness. So when you came up, I think you were looking for housing, and you set up an appointment for us to have coffee together, which was the first time that you really met. And I just kind of remember you sitting down and saying, I'm not going to mess with the music program at St. John's or something like that. And I was like,
yeah, good. How did it work out, Matt?
It worked out great.
Good.
It worked out great. I mean, I have to tell you, I mean, there's no reason for me to butter you up particularly because you're on your way out. But my experience of working with you has been, one of the joys of it has been that you are so well informed and well versed in music, and the times where you have had in your mind something that will support what you're going to preach about, you know, an anthem or a hymn or something. you always have good ideas. I mean, our tastes are kind of aligned. So that's made me happy.
I'm glad for that. And you have always been very gracious, Matt.
Well,
Receiving my suggestions.
I hope so. I hope so. It's really been a joy. So for the benefit of the people that are watching, just so they can get to know this side of you, tell us a little bit about your background in the church and music both, and how music became important to you.
Yeah. Well, music was important in my family. I grew up in a Mennonite home, and a lot of music happened around the piano in the living room. And my dad was an excellent tenor. He was not professionally trained, but he had a beautiful tenor voice. My sister is a really good soprano, and I think by default I sang alto. My mom couldn't sing a lick, but she would sit and listen to us. And my brother played trumpet, but we would sit around the piano and sing trios. And then we sang at church together. And my dad cut a few recordings when he was singing in a quartet, a little Mennonite quartet. And music was just important in our home and in the church. It was a carryover. And I remember being about 8 years old when a woman in the church, her name was Lorna Wiebe, she got up one Sunday. We had a small Mennonite church in Pueblo, Colorado, probably about 50 to 60 people that would worship on Sunday mornings. And Lorna got up and said, I would like to teach piano, free piano lessons to any child in the church who would like to take it. And I was like, Mom, I want to do this. And we had no piano. So my mother arranged for me to go to a neighbor's house about 6-7 doors away from me. And I think I did it for close to a year. And those neighbors put up with this little girl, you know, in her beginning piano lesson stage. And it just stuck. I loved it. And then, of course, we got a piano at home, and I started taking lessons then after Lorna Wiebe needed to move on. I started taking lessons with this sweet, sweet lady. Her name was Elfie Atkinson. Elfie, she was so dear. And I ended up singing at her funeral service years later. And so when I was then 12, I asked my mother for voice lessons, my mom and dad, for voice lessons for my 12th birthday. And Elfie happened to teach voice too. And so I stayed with Elfie until about a junior in high school. And then I started studying with Victoria Markowski. Markowski and Cedrone were duo pianists. Professional.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they were in residence at USC, University of Southern Colorado. So I started studying piano that junior year with Victoria and really, really enjoyed that. And at the same time, I started studying voice lessons with William Kellogg. And that just continued to develop my love for singing and piano. And I was supposed to go away to another college. I had been accepted to the University of Northern Colorado in Greeley, and ready to go into the music program there. And I met a boy before that happened. And that changed everything. And I stayed in my hometown, but it ended up being a great, great journey there. And I really loved my college experience at USC, and had continued to do music in the church. And in fact, Matt, my first paid choir director position, I was a senior in college, and that position happened to be at a United Methodist church.
Really?
And yes.
Wow.
And yeah, how that came full circle. So that was a lot of fun.
I'm interested in, sorry to interrupt you, but I'm interested before you get too far off from the Mennonite thing, because those of us who don't have a lot of experience with that tradition, if we know one thing, it's that Mennonites love to sing. And so in church, was that a cappella singing? What was that like? What do you remember about that?
It was both. By the time I was being raised up, they had introduced piano accompaniment for hymns, but we did both. And boy, the Mennonites still can sing a cappella. And I think you're going to play one particular piece.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, and this is referred to as the Mennonite anthem. It's the Mennonite doxology. And all you had to ever say was, we're singing 606, and people would stand to their feet. They didn't need music. And it was in 6-part harmony in one section, in that Alleluia section. And it was, I think, one of the thrills of my life as a director to be asked to direct 606 at the Mennonite relief cell. Probably about 500 or 600 people, Mennonites, good Mennonite singers. And it was just a thrill to be able to direct that.
Let's hear it. Okay, so this is 606, the Mennonite doxology.
It is.
Praise God from whose all blessings flow. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him, all creatures here below. Praise Him above. Praise Him above. Praise Him above. The heavenly hosts. Praise Him above. Praise Him above. Praise Him above. The heavenly hosts. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Praise Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Amen, hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 hallelujah. Hallelujah, 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 amen. Amen, hallelujah, amen. Hallelujah, amen.
That's such great energetic sound.
Yeah. Sure, yeah.
And so one of the things that I discovered about you after you'd been here a little while is I think I walked into the choir room and heard you playing the piano, and you're a seriously good pianist still. I mean, I always thought that if somebody didn't show up on Sunday morning, you could definitely play the service as well. So did you you continued studying in college piano and voice both pretty seriously? Is that right?
Yes. All
And
three.
was your family supportive of you majoring in music?
Oh, yeah. They were so supportive. Well, my father had died by that time. I was 16 when my dad passed away. But my mother never missed a concert, a solo, a musical performance. She never missed a thing. And always very, very supportive of my music endeavors.
And you did musical theater in college as well, right?
I
In
did.
high school, I assume?
Yes. In high school and in college. Yeah. Had a lot of fun with that.
So what roles did you get to play?
Played Kim McCaffey in Bye Bye Birdie, Julie in Carousel, Lori in Oklahoma, Tracy in Philadelphia Story. That was not a musical, but that was, I don't know that I was really that great in that role. I had to play a drunk for one thing. There was this drinking scene, and I couldn't quite live into that very well. The one part I always wanted to play that I never was able to play or didn't receive the role was Maria in The Sound of Music, but I played one of the nuns in that.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, it was good.
And so did you do music ed? What did you intend to do once you graduated with your undergrad?
I did. I did music ed K through 12, and I always enjoyed performing, but I knew I had to be at some point serious about a career that I could live on. So, and I really love teaching too. And I was certified K-12, and then came back to USC and taught. I guess that was about close to a decade later, elementary music education courses for the music specialist and the elementary teacher. And that was a lot of fun. Really had a great time doing that. And at the same period of time, I was then directing at First Presbyterian. I was the director of worship and music at First Presbyterian. And it was my former voice coach, Bill Kellogg, who ran into me at the annual Music Educators convention at the Broadmoor that would happen every year. And he said, "Hey, I hear you're coming back to Pueblo." My ex-husband at that point had received, he was a golf pro, and he had received a job at the city golf course there. And I had just had my first child, Sean. So it seemed like a good transition time. And so when I ran into Bill, he said, "Come and sing in my choir at First Presbyterian." And so I took him up on it. And a year or so later, Bill Kellogg retired, and I applied for the position and received that. And
Wow.
oh my goodness, loved it. Loved doing that. And also doing handbells. Doug and I both played in the handbell choir to begin with. And then when I got the job, I was the handbell director, directed the children's choir, and of course the chancel choir. And at the same time, I started having these tugs and pulls, and I started leading women's Bible study groups. And Doug and I had a couples Bible study group in our home. And by golly, this year marks the 25th anniversary of receiving my calling to ordained ministry. And then things began to shift. And, you know, as I've always continued to use music in my ministry. I love, you know, being at that time of passing for an individual into their eternal home and picking a couple hymns that are important to the individual or to the family and just singing at the bedside or singing at the graveside as we do a interment service. So, you know, I've always continued to use these threads of music in my pastoral ministry as well.
And so you mentioned that after growing up in the Mennonite church, you had a job doing music in a Methodist church, and then the Presbyterians got you, and the Presbyterians had you for a good while, right?
Yes, and in between that, I directed at a couple Mennonite churches too.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I did in Greeley and in Denver. I had a stint of teaching in Cherry Creek School District in Denver suburbs. And at that time, I directed the choir at First Mennonite Denver. So I think I had about four kind of choir director gigs, but the most significant one was the one at First Presbyterian in Pueblo.
And I know I want to ask you in a second about how you discerned a call to ministry, and then that was United Methodist instead of Presbyterian. But I'm curious about your experience working in churches. Did you, in directing choirs and planning worship and all that kind of stuff, did you have good experiences working with pastors and being mentored by pastors and supported by pastors? Yes,
I had great experiences. And my spiritual mentor, Reverend Dr. John Ross, was very, very significant. He was the senior pastor of First Presbyterian, and he really walked the journey with me as I received my calling and as I discerned that, and to kind of see how music would play out in that or not. And that there were periods of being of discernment that felt really, really solid, and there were other pieces that really took a while for me to adjust to. And music was one of those pieces that I realized I was going to have to relinquish that. It was a surrendering in order to take up this new role. And that was a difficult process. I remember I sang in a women's group. It was called Women of Note in Denver. And I was at the same time just finishing up my first seminary gig. And I was a lay leader at this United Methodist Church. I became an associate pastor there eventually. But we sang in this group called Women of Note, and we had a prison ministry. And we went to the women's correctional systems in Denver County and Jefferson County in Colorado. And it was such a thrill. But when Doug and I left Denver and I had to give up singing in that group, that was one of those shifts that was incredibly hard for me to make. And I grieved that. It was a real sense of loss. And I think that was when I really realized that, music was going to be used in a different way in ministry for me. And I was okay once I grieved that. And I learned that I had to step aside, that I would be working with masters like Matt Greer. And I just had to empower the person to do that and step aside and not get too much in the mix of that.
Yeah, I'm sure that must have been a loss. I mean, hearing you talk about that, it is everybody who is used to being involved in choirs in any way, shape, or form has been grieving a loss like that the last year. Do you know what I mean? Just because all of us are in touch with that right now in a really profound way, and hopeful about it coming back sooner rather than later. But oh my goodness, just seeing in the clip that you provided of those fantastic Mennonites singing together, so close together in a room. I mean, we'll be back to that. I just know we will. Yes, I asked you to give me a couple of ideas of pieces that you love that you wanted to play this morning. And I'm going to shift into playing this famous choral anthem by John Stainer. Why did you choose this to play this morning?
Love it. It's one of my and Doug's favorites. And Matt, I am not sure that I ever got to direct it. I remember singing it, but I'm not sure if I actually directed it. But it's such a thrilling, lovely, beautiful piece.
Yes. So this is God So Loved the World by John Stainer. And I'm showing a video from King's College, Cambridge, the choir's virtual Easter service from this year. So you're going to see boys and men singing together. This is John Stainer, God So Loved the World.
Deep breath.
Yeah. One thing that I was thinking about listening to them, that perfect choir sing that piece, is that is kind of a standard of church choirs all over. And I can't remember the last time. I think we've done it here, but it's been a long time, and it is deceptively difficult. It doesn't seem so because everything is all together for the most time, and it's not like it's all polyphonic or anything. But getting the choir to sing the same vowels and to sing in tune is harder than it looks on the page, at least in my experience.
Yeah. It has a very high tenor piece, which the boy
yes
beautifully.
Yeah.
Without that boys choir, it would be a little hard to navigate.
Yeah, but a beautiful, beautiful piece. So I am interested in hearing about how you discerned a call to ministry while you were working in the Presbyterian Church, but you were ordained in the United Methodist Church. So how did that happen?
Yes. I received my call, as Matt, you said, while I was Presbyterian, and I had a struggle with a doctrine of the church that I couldn't quite reconcile myself with. But I decided to go on to seminary. I was almost done with my seminary education. And along the way, the presbyter, the head of the presbytery, would contact me every once in a while and say, "Are you ready to start the candidacy process?" And I kept saying, "No, it's not the right time. It's not the right time." But I was nearing the end of my seminary degree in theology and decided, okay, I've just got to do this. And Doug and I were moving from Fort Worth, Texas, back to Colorado and to Denver in particular. And so I got looking around at Presbyterian churches and found one close to our home in Highlands Ranch. But Doug got there a month before I did. And he's the one that grew up Methodist. So while he was waiting for the kids and I to arrive, he started attending St. Luke's United Methodist Church in Highlands Ranch. And I arrived then and he said, "Honey, I know you've decided on Grace Presbyterian. You're just going to do this. But come try this United Methodist Church with me just one Sunday." And I said, okay, kind of begrudgingly. But in the midst of being in that service, they had a baptism that day where the whole congregation surrounded the family and the baby being baptized. Beautiful music, a wonderful sermon. And at the end of worship, I asked somebody, and it happened to be the right person who knew what I was talking about. I said, "I need to see the book. I need to see your polity." And he went and got me the Book of Discipline. And I stood there in that United Methodist sanctuary. And the theological dilemma I had was over predestination and election. So I went to the index and I went to the P's for predestination. There's nothing there. I went to the E's thinking, okay, that's where it is for elect. It wasn't there either. And I just remember that sense of standing in that congregation and knowing that I had come home. And then the more I got to know about Wesleyan grace, I knew why I had come home. And it's not that other denominations don't believe in grace. I mean, it's central to who we are as Christian beings and Christian people. But there's something very special about the United Methodist theology around grace, prevenient grace, justifying grace, sanctifying grace, and how the movement of God's Spirit is continually and always working within us and abiding deeply in us. So that was a kind of that journey of my Mennonite undergirding, which has continued to be very present in who I am, and I think is often reflected in how I teach and I preach about justice and mercy. And then, there are threads of Presbyterian nature in me as well. But it was really an easy landing in the United Methodist Church because of its polity, its doctrine. and theological understanding. So I knew I was where I needed to be in that very moment. And that was the church, the first appointment that I received at that very church, St. Luke's.
Wow. That's amazing. That's
And
amazing that's where you ended up.
Yeah. And I am so grateful to my husband that he said, honey, just give it one Sunday.
Yeah, it's amazing to look back at those turning points in our lives and the people who influenced us, isn't it? And I mean, you're aware, I grew up Roman Catholic, and I got a job my junior year of college in San Antonio singing at a Methodist church, and I just went there because there was a job, and I just felt enfolded by the community. I felt so loved by the community, and the emphasis on grace that you mentioned was just a huge turning point for me, and I've always been grateful for that. You are the first. You will not be the last, but you are the first female senior pastor that St. John's has had. And I wonder, in your journey through all of this, and especially discerning your call to ministry, did you have role models? Did you see women in pastorates that made you think, I could do this?
Yeah, one in particular, Reverend Dr. Janet Forbes. She became the senior pastor at St. Luke's. I had already been there a couple years as one of the associates. We had 3 associates. And Janet was and is tremendous. She retired several years ago. I watched her and learned so much from her. And, she was a general conference delegate and a jurisdictional delegate. So I saw her work in the general church, and I saw her grace. And she was a tremendous mentor for me, especially as a female in ministry. But I think I mentioned this recently in a sermon about the first female pastor that I really had connection with was Deborah Cayley in the Presbyterian Church. And she was a treat to watch. And I think she was the first person I went to when I had received my call to ordained ministry, because I really thought I was nuts. And yeah, Deborah walked me through that, and she said, you're not nuts, and what you have experienced is the kind of call I wish I would have experienced, because it was that clear. So she really was the one that helped guide me through that time, and said, go to seminary, try one class and see what goes from there. And the first class I took was in the Psalms. And I think I've mentioned this along the way too. I was such a novice, but I sat in that first seminary class, and I kept hearing this term, exegesis. And I finally raised my hand and asked the professor, who is exegesis? I thought there was a Jesus I didn't know about. And oh my gosh, I learned quickly, and it was somewhat embarrassing to find out, that's a lens in which we exegete the scripture.
Right. I don't know when I first heard that word either, Pam. So you were brave to ask. I'm sure I didn't. So I have one other piece of music that you suggested this morning you might enjoy playing because you love it. Tell us what this is.
Love it. You Raise Me Up, Josh Groban. Doug and I heard Josh Groban at Red Rocks Amphitheater in Golden, Colorado, or just west of Golden. Beautiful setting. And in fact, I got to sing at Red Rocks with Women of Note.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was incredible. We felt like rock stars that day. We sang for the morning sunrise, Easter morning sunrise service for the Council of Churches for the state of Colorado. And we seriously were taken underground underneath the stage to the dressing rooms. And we had a green room and the whole thing. And we were brought up through the hallway where all these pictures of stars are with their signatures on. So I don't. That's a long way of getting around to saying Josh Groban singing this piece at Red Rocks was really thrilling, and it's another piece that Doug and I have really enjoyed through the past few years.
Okay. And we're actually going to hear, I think this is the men's a cappella group from Brigham Young University singing You Raise Me Up.
When I am down and oh, my soul so weary, when troubles come and my heart burdened be, then I am still and wait here in the silence until you come and say a while with me. You raise me up so I can stand on mountains. You raise me up to walk on stormy seas. Strong when I am on your shoulders. You raise me up to more than I can be.
There is no life without its hunger. Each restless heart beats so
You raise me up to more than I can be.
It's beautiful.
It is. Thanks for playing that, Matt.
Oh, my pleasure. That is, and I have to say, I was sitting here thinking that is extremely well produced for like a college a cappella group. That gave me ideas for what we should be doing for chancel choir. We need to take them out into the wilderness and
out into the desert. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
Better setting right here in Albuquerque.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. So before we let you go, tell us a little bit about what you're excited about your new role, your next role in ministry.
Yeah. Well, in a sense, Doug and I are going back to one of our homes. We served there in El Paso for 4 years and in Las Cruces for 3. And Las Cruces is part of the El Paso district. And it is geographically one of the largest districts in the United Methodist Church.
Really?
United States. Yeah. It reaches all the way from Odessa, Texas, down in that west corner of Texas to El Paso, all the way over to Lordsburg and the state line of New Mexico and Arizona, and all the way north to Truth or Consequences. So it's a big area. I'll be serving over 40 churches and 40 pastors. And I'm excited for the opportunity that Bishop Bledsoe has provided for me. And being on the cabinet, not officially yet, but being afforded to see the process this spring, the appointive process has really been interesting. And it's very, very spirit-filled. We can trust in the work that the bishop and the cabinet are doing. So I'm starting to get excited about it. Doug and I went down to see the parsonage last week, and my office will be down the hall from the master bedroom.
You're going to live over the store.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. So, and if it weren't for the pandemic, I'm not sure if I could have survived, being at the house and having that my office. But the pandemic has taught me that it really is okay. And Doug and I can take those nice little moments during the day to take a walk, or walk the dogs, or have lunch together, or sit out in the backyard. So, I think it's going to be okay. It's going to be hard to depart from St. John's, but I know the extreme, incredible leadership of Randall Parton, and you are all in for an incredible treat. And he is truly a visionary, and he's going to take St. John's into the next future years, and it's going to all be good. And he doesn't have a music degree, as far as I know.
I didn't mean to come off like I was threatened, or anything, except,
okay.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Well, I appreciate knowing that. And I'm thrilled for you as much as I am very sorry that we're not going to be working together on a regular basis, because it has been a joy.
Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you, and it has been. And I just want to publicly say, and this seems like a good time to say it, that it has been one of my greatest pleasures and honors in ministry to serve alongside you. And you bring such depth, not only musically, but just who you are. You bring your depth and your spirituality and your whole being to all that you do. And it's been an incredible pleasure and honor.
Thank you. Thank
I'm
you.
not saying farewell yet, brother.
No, we got a couple of months yet. So,
right.
We got plenty of time for goodbyes. Yeah. Well, thanks for being willing to come on and make time for this and talk about your sordid past in music. We all appreciate it. And thanks for everything that you brought to us to play this morning. I enjoyed all of it. So thanks for being here, Pam.
Thank you for the invitation, Matt.
Okay, see ya. Bye. So, friends, just a reminder that this Saturday at 5 o'clock, Therese McCauley, our assistant music director here, Understanding Bach and Yourselves, live streamed on our YouTube channel this Saturday at 5 o'clock. Hope to see you there for that. And we'll see you back here next Monday, I think. We'll let you know. Take care. Bye.